Everyone, and thanks for joining us. This is the first edition of the BITS Alumni Mentorship Program podcast, where we talk to different alumni who've experienced life abroad, who've moved abroad, and we want to get their experiences and hopefully share some useful tips about how one can decide whether they want to move abroad, and if they do, what are the other things we have to keep in mind. So, on that note, I'm happy to introduce Srikar, our first guest. Srikar, can you give us an introduction? Your BITS pass out branch, your occupation, where you've lived, and a timeline of your moves as well.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Rushabh, for having me. And it's exciting to be part of the first podcast on this line. So I'm Srikar. I'm from 2007 batch of BITS Pilani. So 2007 to 11. I did my bachelor's in pharmacy in BITS. And after that, I worked for a year in India, in Hyderabad. And then I moved to US for my master's. So I was studying my master's in Northeastern University in Boston. And then I worked for 2 years in Boston for a small biotech company. And then after that, I moved to Finland for my PhD. So I was in Finland from 2016 to 2023. And then now I'm currently in Cambridge working for AstraZeneca in the UK. So you can see that I've moved around a lot in different countries and also continents. So yeah, that's about me.
That is awesome. So let's sort of take this step by step. So the first move you made was from Hyderabad. You worked in Hyderabad for a while after graduating, and then you decided to take the move to pursue your master's in the United States. So can you walk us through sort of your decision-making process about, what was your first motivation to, pursue a higher education outside of the country? And once you had made that decision, what are the factors you made or considered when it came to leaving India and then choosing a country? Because there are so many different programs and countries to choose from.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so at that time I was really lost and I didn't have much resources, to be very honest with you. And like every other person, so the first country that came to my mind was US. I didn't even think anywhere else. And because also a few of seniors from BITS, they were already in the US. I spoke to a couple of them and also before that, like even before that. So I first graduated. I didn't want to do higher studies right away because I was not really sure because there's so many different specializations. What's the right specialization for me? So that 1 year of working, so I worked for a consulting company. In a way, I would say that it made it clear that I don't want to be in consulting for sure. So that it helped in that way.
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted to do research and because, healthcare related fields, doing research, it's not that great in India. So for me, like any other Bitsian, the first country that came to my mind was US, and I looked at different universities in the US. Yeah, I mean, I took the easy route, I would say, because I picked universities where I know there are a few Bitsians and I have some information about the program there. And I applied to those universities and I was able to get into. The reason I chose Boston was Northeastern specifically because Boston is known to be a biotech hub and there's a lot of industries, startups in Boston area, also because of good universities around like MIT, Harvard,
Yeah.
and a lot of healthcare companies have their headquarters in
Yeah.
Boston. So yeah, that was the reason for picking US. But I mean, I didn't look at any other university to be honest, or any other country to be honest. So
Yeah.
it was just within US. I just applied, and back then I also didn't have a good research profile that I. These days, a lot of students that I am coming across, they are doing a lot of previous research, let's say a
Yeah.
thesis abroad and all of that, which is building their profile already quite strong before they even apply. So I didn't do any of those. So I just applied directly.
Okay, so you've moved to the US and then you graduated, you worked there for a while. And then after a while, you took the decision to pursue your PhD. And now for your PhD, you've chosen to move outside of the US to the European Union. So what was sort of your triggering or motivation to sort of exit the US and explore or try out a different country?
I would say to some extent it was the immigration system in the US because the company that I was working for sponsored my H-1B visa for 2 years in a row. And the H-1B lottery system, it's a bit tricky and it's always troubling. It keeps you on your toes whether you'll get the H-1B visa or not. And I know that even after you get your H-1B visa, then the struggle still goes on until you get a green card, and it's never ending. And I mean, I always wanted to do a PhD because when I was working for the company, I've seen firsthand that the people who are generally deciding, like making the decisions of what is a good target or what needs to be going into the patients, those people are generally with PhDs. And even if you are a master's with several years of experience, maybe you'll reach there, but there's clearly a requirement in the industry for someone with a good clinical depth or with that knowledge, especially in healthcare or these type of fields where which are research intensive. So I wanted to do a PhD for sure, but then the decision of picking Europe was easier because of the immigration system, and also there is a simpler system of applying in Europe. So in US, if you want to do a PhD, it doesn't matter whether you already have a master's degree or you're applying as a bachelor's. You need to apply to the grad school, and then you do rotations, and then you get into a lab. Whereas in Europe, you can, so the positions are posted as advertisements, like any job application or for any job opening in a company. So a professor will post that, I have a PhD position open, and this is the project, like an abstract of the project and what all you would be doing. And if that's interesting to you, you apply. Once you get into you get the position, then you apply to the university which the professor is affiliated to. And so you don't really go about applying to universities in Europe. It's mostly you go to the professor and apply to the professor's lab, and then you apply to a university. So it's a bit different in that sense. I think US and UK, they follow similar system that you need to apply to the graduate school and then you get allotted a professor. And for US also, it's possible that, you have 2 or 3 professors in mind, you do rotations, and let's say you want Professor A, but if the Professor A is like high in demand and a lot of people have applied to the same university, you may not even get into the same lab or same professor's group. So it could be highly demanding in that sense. So it's also a bit uncertain. So I didn't want to take that risk. So I just thought because of immigration issues and also because I didn't know whether I'll get into a lab that I want to, because of that uncertainty, I applied to Europe. I applied to other places in Europe as well, but I got a position in Finland, which the project seemed exciting and not something that I wanted to do as well. I mean, everything fell in place when I got a position, so I made a move.
Okay, that's nice. And then you were in Finland for your PhD, and after completing your PhD, you now made the move to the United Kingdom. So can you walk us through that shift as well?
Yeah, so Europe, I mean, moving from Finland to UK was also a bit of a tougher decision. I mean, I really enjoyed being in Finland. I loved living in Finland. It's, I mean, unlike what a lot of others might be thinking, it's one of the best countries that I've lived so far in terms of how they treat the immigrants. So the immigrants are treated really well, on par with, so the benefits that you get and the way you are treated in the society in terms of different, so for whatever taxes you pay, the benefits you get, there's no discrimination whether you're a citizen or whether you're an immigrant. So in that sense, I enjoyed my time and it was really good. It's just that there's a big language barrier. I think that's the issue with any European country. And so there are a lot of, and also the number of opportunities in that sense for so someone who's into research who wants, so the European countries, most of the European countries, they are not too much into, we need to make money or we need to, research. And so the ideologies are very different, because in US, it's a bit of a capitalistic economy, and they want to, if they find something, they want to bring it as soon as possible into the market, because they don't want the competitors to bring it out first and have the the property IP rights, so that they are in, so they can get the benefit out of it. So they always push for it. There's in that sense, the work-life balance also is quite different there. So for me, moving to UK for 2 reasons, mainly because the opportunities in Finland were not as many as you would expect. So if I want to continue in academia, like if I want to be a postdoc in an academic lab, I could have done that. I could have kept on doing that. But I wanted to move to the industry, and there's not many opportunities in Finland. So I've applied in a few other places, but the lot of places, language barrier, and also if you're moving, they prefer someone who is locally in those countries within Europe. So like Switzerland, I was trying to apply. So it's not easy unless you've already in that country. So UK in that sense was easier because of, there's no language barrier, and then it's again, I would say UK is somewhat a good mix of European ideologies and US mindset, in that sense that they are competitive and good research opportunities. So there's a lot of companies which made me pick. So I applied to AstraZeneca and then I got in. So yeah, I found a position which is again very similar to what I want to do in the future. Yeah, so it all fell in place.
That's amazing. So when we talk about like graduate programs or jobs when we're moving to another country for them, in addition to committing to the job or the program, we are also committing our life for X number of years in a completely new place. So let's talk more about like culture and life outside of the academic program, outside of the work you're doing in the lab, outside of your job. When we talk about culture and life in these places, what are some of the, so let's go again move by move. Can you tell me what are some of the biggest like life and culture shocks you faced when you first moved from India to the US?
Yeah, I would say the first move is generally the most difficult one because you know you are very much comfortable in your home country,
Yeah.
or because a lot of us, I mean, for me, I would say even the shock was already when I moved from Hyderabad to Pilani. That would have already, uh,
Yeah.
given you a certain amount of shock, but you get comfortable already. And now once you're comfortable living in Pilani or anywhere else
Yeah.
outside of your hometown, I don't think the major issue is the being homesick, or because those issues would have already been solved by then, that you're living already outside of
Yeah.
your hometown as a part of your
Mm.
4 years in bits, you make friends. So first part, of course, that is solved. That I was worried that I
Yeah.
might be homesick. The other issue would be whether you will get the groceries like Indian stuff, which if you want
Yeah.
to any of these. But then in US, there's still good amount of exposure to Indian culture. There's a lot of Indians around. There's Indian restaurants.
Yeah.
The biggest cultural shock for me was, I would say, like you go to, especially not so much for me, but for vegetarians, there's a lot of issues because a lot of places you go to, the vegetarian options are just a few, like 2 or 3 you could have to pick. And then I know like a couple of my friends who are vegetarians who had to like go to McDonald's and then they had to order a chicken burger without the chicken in it. So they
Yeah.
just give you a sandwich with lettuce in it.
Yeah.
So some of those issues were there for others. And then the climate changes could be
Yes.
so for me, Boston was really cold. It was, yeah, extremely cold, and there were snowstorms, and you're never seen something like that. I mean, little bit
Yeah.
of snow, you are fine, but then it gets really extremely
Mm.
cold. And then trying to still manage your day-to-day activities
Yeah.
while, because life goes on for these people,
Yeah.
even if it is snow, rain, it doesn't matter. So,
Yeah.
so there's no like holidays when there's snow or anything like that. Things
Yeah.
go on. So getting used to that. And also there are some very minor ones like, converting. So because when you're a master student, you look at the prices of everything and you try to convert it to
Yeah.
fees and you see, oh my God, this is so expensive and things like that. But then when you actually end up earning there, then you feel like it's nothing. It's
Yeah.
not that expensive. So there's a quick shift there.
Mhm.
Also something like a temperature, for example, everything is in metric system, right? In the US.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like in the supermarket, you get things in gallons, which is not something what you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And the units are different, like pounds, and
Yeah.
temperature is in Fahrenheit. And so, yeah, those are some things,
Yeah.
but not something that you can't manage, but it's something you need to get used to. But for me, yeah, the temperature and those type of issues were a
Yeah.
bit difficult to get used to.
And
But
are there any, oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. You were asking something.
I was just wondering, like, are there any other, aspects of your experience or expenses that probably you didn't have in India, or things like, I think a lot of us are a little pampered in India, and that sort of changes when we go abroad. Similarly, are there other like experiences or expenses that you just didn't have when you stayed in India, but they crept up unexpectedly or stuff like that in when you moved abroad?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely you don't have any house help type of.
Yeah.
It's like you can't hire anyone to do anything.
Yeah.
You have to. So most of these things you had to be done by you.
Mm.
But I mean, life was also easier in that sense that you had dishwashers and you had most
Yeah.
of the stuff was good in that sense. So some of the expenses are which I didn't know or which were like new to me were most of the products or stuff was in the stores. The prices were excluding the taxes. So when
Yeah.
you actually went to pay for it, you know that, okay, this is not the actual price,
Yeah.
but there's a tax added on top of
Yeah.
it. And they advertise everything like without tax and like
Yeah.
really think that the prices are actually lower. But then when
Yeah.
you add on the tax, you know that, okay, it's not too low actually.
Yeah.
And then the other culture is anywhere you go, there's a tipping culture,
Yes.
which you may not be familiar with. And I've had a few experiences where I didn't know that you're supposed to tip, and I've been given like strange looks by
Oh.
waiters and waitresses for not tipping them
Mm.
enough or well,
Yeah.
and which you don't do usually, right? In India, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a not a important thing. It's like a
Yeah.
casual thing that you may or may not tip. That's up to you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's and like how you mentioned, like the grocery prices, because I remember when I moved, one of the biggest sort of shocks that I faced is that they don't have the concept of MRP in the
yeah,
US. That the
yeah, they don't.
exact same chocolate bar will cost 10 different prices in 10 different shops.
Yeah,
So another thing that sort of I had to do was figure out which items are cheapest in which stores and sort of try and plan my groceries accordingly.
exactly. I mean, and they keep changing too, right? Like this week,
Yeah.
something can be cheaper in this store, and
Yeah.
yeah. So there's no way to get around it. I mean, I
Yeah.
think overall you just have to look through the apps and find out where is
Yeah.
the cheapest that you get something and you're looking
Yeah.
for, and just those are issues. I mean, those issues I
Mm.
still face even in UK as well, because in UK that's
Okay.
the same concept. Like the supermarket
Okay.
product can be if it's,
Mhm.
I mean, vegetables or the fresh produce, that's still understandable that they
Yeah.
come from different farms.
Yeah.
But like a
Yeah.
packed product like a
Mm.
dairy milk or
Yeah.
like a Snickers bar,
Mm.
it should be the same priced,
Yeah.
right? But you will be
Yeah.
surprised that they'll be different also in different
Yeah.
places.
This is one thing I did not expect at all that I take for granted in India and completely sort of blew my mind when I
Yeah.
left.
The other strangely, I mean, especially in the current
Mm.
day in India, you can
Mm.
order a lot of things online. I'm
Yeah.
actually surprised with how the e-commerce in India has
Mm.
taken shape, because you'd be surprised that actually I was thinking you can do a lot of these things in UK, or in the Western world they
Mm.
should be way more advanced in terms of these
Yeah.
technologies. But
Mm.
you will be surprised that it's not as simpler as you think it is,
Yeah.
because with Swiggy, Instamart, and all of these
Mm.
things, you can actually order a lot of things
Yeah.
coming to your doorstep.
Mm.
And whereas here, you still need to
Mm.
go and shop all of
Yeah.
these by yourself.
So when you sort of gained experience over the years, are there any like habits or hacks you sort of developed for yourself to sort of navigate some of these things?
Yeah, so I would say in the first move, like when I was
Mm.
initially in
Mm.
US,
Mm.
so I mean, I would say one mistake I did was I didn't really explore and try to make friends from, other countries and
Yeah.
people outside
Mm.
of the Indian community, because
Mm.
when we moved, like when I got admitted to Northeastern University, I had two other Bitsians who got
Mm.
admitted into the same university, and so we were sharing a flat together, and, I didn't really miss so we still lived like Bitsians, even though we
Yeah.
were in Boston. So I didn't have much of a world outside of
Mm.
Indians or Bitsians. So most of but then when I first moved to Finland, because the
Yeah.
number of Indians itself is low, and you try to explore, try to make friends from other countries as well. You're more
Yeah.
open to understanding people from other
Mm.
countries as well. That opens up a lot of your international outlook
Mm.
and understanding of cultures, and trying
Yeah.
to. So that experience was quite unique for me and
Mm.
different from me. And I thought that I should have done more of it when I was
Yeah.
in US. I mean, of course, when I was working, I had
Mm.
colleagues, but then in US, everyone has a similar type of cultural background.
Yeah.
Whereas in Europe, they still retain their native culture, even though
Mm.
they are from. So even if they're in Finland, they still maintain some of their cultural identity of which country they belong to. So I
Yeah.
had friends from all over Europe in different countries, and got to know a lot about their history, culture, their cuisines, and yeah, appreciated all of that more. And then the experience also gets better when you try to appreciate and enjoy
Yeah.
different countries and cultures, which I didn't do probably I mean, the only thing I embraced when I was in US was the sports culture of US.
Mm.
So I think that helps. Like if you make friends with the locals, and you understand the local cultures, like, the college footballs and college sports are a big thing. So if your university has a good team,
Yeah.
and, being part of those, I think it also helps build your network. And when you network with someone, and you can easily connect with an alumni saying, yeah, I used to like, it's a common
Yeah.
small talk is usually about
Mm.
sports. Like if
Yeah.
I'm in Boston, they talk about Patriot games.
Mm.
And so
Mhm.
whichever city you're in, try to follow the local culture, whatever is, and try to be part of the local, whatever it is, like whatever is your interest, games, food, culture. Try to, yeah, make friends from locals as well.
Yeah, and let's sort of move from now the US to Europe, because I feel that this might be a much more culturally significant change that presented a whole new set of challenges.
Yeah, exactly. So moving from US to, I mean, first of all, living in US, of course, made me more internationally aware of, different cultures and everything. And when I moved to Finland, some of the challenges I had first was a language barrier was really massive, because
Yeah.
if you go to supermarket, I mean, if you recognize a product, of course, you don't need a translation, but otherwise it's very difficult to know, and not everyone speaks English well. I was in a university town, luckily, so most of the people, or there were a lot of younger people who spoke the language, so it wasn't that difficult. And in the university community, it's still easy to manage. But
Yeah.
otherwise, the notices on the roads, or the signs on the roads, the whatever, a lot of things,
Yeah.
signs on the buses, everything, they're all in Finnish and
Yeah.
local language. It could be
Mm.
same in, I'm assuming it's the same in other
Yeah.
European country as well.
Yeah.
And I've traveled a lot also in Europe, and everywhere it's the same, that these days it's easier with Google Translate, that you can click a
Yeah.
picture and translate it on the go.
Mm.
But especially spoken language gets difficult. Like a lot of times you might be stuck at a place, and if you're in an English speaking country, you can easily ask them and they
Yeah.
guide you. Whereas in a country like Finland or
Mm.
places where you don't speak the local language, it can be tough at points.
Yeah.
And there is a bit of racism associated with it as well, which I've seen also when I've traveled a bit in Europe. Like you go to some restaurant, and if you don't speak the
Yeah.
local language, you are
Yeah.
treated a bit differently.
Mm.
Whereas, yeah, I mean, you won't be given the best of the service, or you won't be given the priority. Like you ask, what is this? And they
Yeah.
just answer it in a very simple way, or it might be
Yeah.
also rude sometimes. So I've seen the same experience in the same restaurant. I went myself, and then I went with a Finnish person. The kind of treatment I got was a bit
Yeah.
different. But
Yeah.
I don't think it's that bad. I mean, it's not to be taken in a very negative sense. It's how people are. Is that they're not comfortable with the language.
Yeah. And so would you say it's sort of like an unwritten requirement to pick up the language?
I think if you live there longer, you will in a way pick up bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
And I would say if you're in a country where there's not many locals speaking the local like English well, then you will eventually pick it up even faster. For
Yeah.
me in Finland, I was in a university town, so I didn't really require Finnish so much. But
Yeah.
I know a lot of places where I know some of my friends who've been in Germany, and they are in towns which the locals don't speak English at all. So they had to learn German even for their day-to-day life. More than the language, I think it's easier if you're able to integrate into the local community, try to understand the culture and talk to
Yeah.
people, make friends from the
Mhm.
locals. That is better than like you will learn the language
Yeah.
eventually as you
Yeah.
navigate.
Yeah.
So definitely, yeah, language is a major barrier. So it was challenging to move. And then also no, the number of Indians or would be
Yeah.
different in different cities, but at least
Right.
not as many as in US or UK. So
Right.
culturally also the food options, like Indian food options are very limited.
Yeah.
Even if you want to cook, you won't get the required groceries that many, or you might have to
Right.
rely on whatever is available.
Yeah.
That makes it trickier as well. So
And then, so finally, when we moved from Finland to UK, after experiencing both the US and Finland, what was sort of similar and what was different?
yeah, so uh, there are a lot of similarities, because once I was in, so I would say the UK, I told UK is like a good mix of
Yeah.
European and US
Yeah.
lifestyle, because firstly, there's no language barrier.
Yeah.
Secondly, similar to US, there's a good competitive spirit among people, and everyone has this strong desire to uh, learn new things, and
Yeah.
uh, which is coming from, because I'm also in the university town now. I'm in Cambridge, which has one of the good top universities here. So everyone is thriving or striving to learn new
Yeah.
things. And so, yeah, you feel like everyone is pretty much an intellectual in that sense. Like at least the people I've spoken to, they're very well they know a lot of their stuff,
Yeah.
is what you feel. Which I had the same feeling when I was in US as well, that people in US seem to be passionate. The people who are passionate are really striving to
Yeah.
compete and do that. The commonalities between UK and Finland, I would say, is the way people are treated. So in that sense, like in Finland as well, there is so a lot of benefits given to the immigrants, like the free healthcare. I don't
Yeah.
think it's as many as in Finland, because Finland you can't compare because it's a role model country, but
Yeah.
it's still, I would say, the immigrants still get free healthcare in the UK, which I think healthcare to me, uh, you know how difficult it is in US, that the
Yeah.
insurance, on top of, even after paying a lot of amounts for your insurance, you still have to pay a lot when you need something to be
Yeah.
taken care of by a doctor, even like a very simpler thing. I have an experience also there, that once I strained my ankle and I had to go to the doctor in the US, and I had a good insurance from the employer. It's like the top insurance, but still I had to pay, I think, close to 1100 or 1200
Oh gosh.
dollars, which seemed quite a lot at that time.
And if something similar happened in either Finland or UK, what would sort of the procedure or process be like?
So in Finland, it would be fully covered. So yeah, and a part of the problem there is that the government pays for everything, so they don't like overtreat or undertreat anything. So if because of that, the issue is that there's a big waiting
Yeah.
list. So if you're suffering from something which might be very critical for you, but they look at it and they see, okay, this is not something which requires immediate intervention, they'll
Yeah.
ask you to wait. And that might feel a bit annoying or strange for Indians who are used to like going
Yeah.
to a private hospital and getting treated if you don't get the right care.
Mm.
But the reason for that is, I think, because they know the government doesn't want to spend money on, like, if something is not needed, they won't do it.
Yeah.
So which works really well.
Mm.
So even if there's one or two wrong cases, I would say 99% of the times they do their job well. So other than the waiting times, I think I never had to worry about uh, in terms of paying at least.
Yeah. Mm.
Even for the most complicated of the surgeries, I know some of my friends got, they didn't have to pay anything.
That's
So
really nice.
so there is only like some amount that you have to pay, which
Mm.
is like, you get a very small bill for
Mm.
maybe of 35 euros or something,
Okay.
which is very minimal. And
Yeah.
even that gets waived off if you're a student or if you're
Oh.
someone who doesn't earn enough than a
Mm.
certain, like, a threshold.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, that is. But the issue I had in Finland was, again, with the language barrier also comes if you go to a doctor.
Mm.
So, I mean, doctors might know English very well, but if you meet with some nurses or people who are
Mm.
still in the earlier chain, not
Yeah.
that, so they may not be that fluent in English, so they may know what to. So it takes a while to explain actually your problem, and they may not
Yeah.
understand it well. And
Yeah.
things are not easy, especially medical issues cannot be communicated that well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that issues do exist. But otherwise, if you're in terms of payments, I don't think there's
Okay.
a problem. Everything is covered.
Nice. And I think one of the last things that I wanted to talk about, because something you brought up again as one of your motivations for choosing Finland, is the visa or immigration process and how this differs across the US, some of the EU countries like Finland, and then finally the UK.
Yeah. Yeah, I think US, I think pretty
Mm.
much is known. Everyone knows
Yeah.
that it's not easy,
Mm.
and it's very challenging. Immigration process
Yeah.
is very complicated and confusing.
Mm.
Lot of different visa types, and also navigating from one visa to another. Some the dependents can work, with some the dependents
Yeah.
cannot work.
Mm.
For some, there's also requirements for you to leave the country and come back
Mm.
before you can apply for a green card. And there's like so lots of different
Mm.
scenarios and cases. And with H1, let's talk mainly about F1 and
Mm.
H1 visas,
Yeah.
which are like important for
Mm.
people like Bitsians,
Mm.
because we generally, most commonly, Bitsians go there for is higher studies and
Yeah.
probably apply for an F1 visa. Or then if you're going for like a short-term visitor, as a researcher or something, or a postdoc, you get a J1 visa.
Yeah.
And so F1 visa, I think, is fairly straightforward. You mostly, if you have a good admit from a good university, you get the visa.
Yeah.
The issues come with when you're graduating. There's OPTs, and you
Yeah.
need 90 days by which you need to get a job, and there's a lot of pressure actually for
Yeah.
students. If you're while you're graduating, you need to start your application for the jobs. Like you need to be 6 months before you graduate, you start applying sometimes, and there's a lot of stress that people are in under, and you require also the jobs that you get for anyway for locals who don't require this visa, they just need to look for a job. But whereas for
Yeah.
us, we need to look for a job that also sponsors your H1B visa. And then once you get an H1B visa, it's also not in your hands. I feel that there's a lot that you can do everything right, but still things can happen that your uh, like lottery system is also a bit uh, difficult. Like you
Yeah.
have only 85,000 visas a year, and there's more than 2 lakh
Yeah.
people applying, and because of which there's a lottery. I mean, people have been gaming the system also by applying multiple applications for different positions and all of that. Yeah, so it all, there's a lot of like luck also involved in this process. And even after you get the H1B visa, there's still other immigration challenges. Like if you need a green card, you need to find an employer who, and with the current wave of layoffs that recently we had a lot of companies making employees redundant. It
Yeah.
puts a lot of pressure also because of the immigration challenges that you have 90 days to find a new employer and find an employer who's willing to transfer your H1B or file your H1B visa. Yeah, so because people who go to the US generally take a big loan, and they need to be able to pay back their loans. So it puts a lot of pressure on them, the immigration system.
Yeah.
Hopefully things change. I'm not sure if they'll change. I was thinking they'll change every year, but never changed it's
Yeah.
actually getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that, compared to that, in Finland, because I think the issue with US is because they get a lot of applicants also,
Yeah.
because it's a land of opportunities, and it's also a English speaking country. That is the reason they've had to put these, limits on the number of visas.
Yeah.
Whereas in Finland, they generally don't see so many people applying. So they don't really have any restrictions. So if you get into a university, yeah, there's no way you don't get a visa. You get a visa, and then you get a residence permit if you are in a program which requires you to be in the country for a long time. So because I was a PhD, I got a residence permit already when I first applied.
Okay.
And with the residence permit, the other advantage is that the dependents can also work,
Okay.
and the dependents get all the benefits that uh, regular citizens get. And so to give an example, so my wife, when she first moved, so I got married when I was in Finland, and my wife moved to Finland with me. And while she was on her job search, she also got benefits like unemployment benefits from the government. And when she was on maternity leave, she also got paid by the government, which you don't generally see
Yeah.
happening in US, for example. Or
Yeah.
that was really eye-opening for me, that country can be that great as well for the
Yeah.
immigrant. So yeah, and then to UK, I would say UK is still somewhere in between. So getting a visa is easier. They don't have any limits. If you find a job with a company which is willing to sponsor, if the company is willing to sponsor, you get the visa. That's it.
Yeah.
But they're trying to put restrictions, because again, the UK is also seeing similar issues, like their massive migrations because of
Yeah.
because of it being an English speaking country.
Yeah.
So they've started. I think it's just been you might have seen they've moved out of EU with the
Yeah.
Brexit. And with Brexit, of course, they want to cut down on immigration. So they've started to put on limits on like a number of mainly the salary required for a
Okay.
certain
Yeah.
visa type, which is not a big difficulty, I would say. Most of the positions that highly skilled workers apply to, they should be able to meet those criteria.
Yeah.
So nothing major to worry about for Bitsyans in that sense. Because there's nothing that, nothing out of the blue coming here. Like in US, even if the employer is willing to sponsor, there is a lottery that you need to, which is not in your control. Whereas in UK, if the employer is willing to sponsor, you get the visa and you're able to move. And it's the same in UK as well. If you live in the country for 5 years, you're eligible for a permanent residence.
Right.
So yeah, because in US it doesn't guarantee, no matter how long you live, it doesn't really guarantee you a green card or
yeah. Okay, well, that was awesome. I think we covered a lot of stuff. We talked about, moving to different countries, talked about a little bit of culture shocks in different countries, language barriers, and also the healthcare systems across these different continents, and also a bit about visa and immigration. So I think we packed a lot of stuff in this. Do you have any sort of final remarks or closing notes you'd like to share?
Sure. The only thing I would say is because we are all Bitsyans and there's Bitsyans everywhere pretty much. No matter, I think the major issue for people trying to move abroad is we generally try to pick whatever is an easy option. Look for, if this is a university where we know a couple of seniors have been admitted to, we just try with the herd mentality that this is the best university to go to, or we don't really think of outside of US. I think this has changed in the recent times when I'm seeing more and more Bitsyans also exploring European countries. But with that, also think about European universities are definitely good. There's a lot of German universities like Max Planck Institutes, which have good research facilities, good. You also get full scholarships. You don't really pay anything in terms of education. So so you don't really need to think only about US as your option. There are other options which I didn't, due to lack of awareness, I didn't apply to anywhere else outside of US, which I think. But if you look at the opportunities, definitely that's something also you need to keep in mind that, of course, US has a lot of opportunities and being a English-speaking country, but it also comes with challenges of immigration. So it's up to you whether you think about taking a hefty loan, going to the US and thinking to get struggle with immigration, or do you want to just apply to countries which are less in terms of financially challenging and also not difficult to immigrate, but then might have challenges with finding opportunities. So there's no right answer here. It's just that you need to weigh in all your options before you decide to move. But definitely every experience will be enriching because I can clearly tell that I've lived in so many countries and every experience has been different from the other, and I've learned and improved myself as a person from one country to another. And Bitsyans are everywhere. Reach out and you'll always get help from. And I've never come across a Bitsyan who doesn't want to offer help. So that's my last word of advice.
Great. Thank you so much. That's a great note to end on. And thank you for your time, Srikar.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Hopefully this is helpful.